Although there appears to be 3 or 4 people watching already. Could one of you just please put a comment in the live chat to confirm that the sound's working okay? I think it is at my end, but I've got a new microphone tonight, so I just want to check that sound and vision's okay. Hello, I'll see you at past. Hello everyone, welcome to Making Photos Live, the very first edition, or the 101st live stream from in studio, depending on how you wish to view it. Yeah, the title sequence is wrong, I know that. I had intended changing it, but didn't have all the files here at the studio with me to be able to do an edit on that one, so I'll have to wait till next time, I'm afraid. So welcome, and we've got a small but well-selected group of viewers with us tonight, and I'm presuming everybody else will be catching up on replay on this. It's been ages since I did a live stream, since early January, and maybe you thought you were never going to get another one. Well, hard luck, you've got one. Right, so what are we going to be talking about tonight? Well, we are going to be doing a Q&A session tonight, and to get us started on that, I've already got one question that came in from Richard Lovelock. If you're a member of the Facebook group, you'll have seen this question. It was a photo that Richard had made of a performance, I presume on a cruise ship, and the lighting had come out in a rather peculiar way, and he was asking if there was any way to deal with it. I know exactly what the problem is because it's something I've experienced myself with my theatre photography, and I want to give an explanation for it, as well as showing what the fix is. The fix is remarkably simple, but the understanding behind it is a bit more complex. And I think it's important to have the understanding. So that's the first question. But as I say, it is a live Q&A. So I'm hoping I'm just going to get some live questions from the rest of you who are watching. Otherwise, it could be a short show. Who knows? So anything photography related, anything you can ask me, but I'm not guaranteeing to answer everything other than photography related ones. I see Richard's just joined us in the chat, so hi Richard on that, and I've got some image feedback as well from various people. So let's get on with this in a moment, but do keep chatting in the chat. It is interactive, and it doesn't have to be just questions. It can be comments in there as well. Love to know who's actually watching. So if you are watching this and listening to me, do say hi in there. Otherwise, I'm just talking to an empty room. Right, okay, feedback. I'm going to start, as I normally do, with images which were sent to me by email. Wrong email address. Well, it still works actually, but the correct one now is feedback@makingphotos.co.uk, which is the new branding, of course. So send your images there. And when I do these sort of feedback sessions, those will take priority. Why will they take priority? Because I can give you better feedback because it's higher resolution. I've got all the EXIF information and I can tell you a lot more about them. We've just had Walter appear in the chat as well. So hi, Walter. Great to have you with us tonight. So let me head over to Lightroom and look at the images which were emailed to me over the last couple of weeks. Right, see if I can remember the right buttons to press on this. Does that work? Yes, it works. Whoa, right. Okay, there's 5 images, well, 3 images and 2 versions of 2 of them here. And the 2 Northern Lights images are from Richard Lovelock. And let's start with, let's start with the unprocessed image first of all. And let me see if I can get a better display on here. So, yep, that's that. And that. And get rid of all of that. Right, so Northern Lights image, unprocessed file. So let's have a look at the information on here. First thing to say is the choice of lens on here, a 70 to 35mm. Now, if you've never photographed the Northern Lights, that's spot on the right lens to use. You want wide angle to capture the vista of the sky. That's not to say you can't use something a bit tighter, but typically you want that huge vista in the sky. So wide angle, so that's the right end, and this was shot at 18mm on there, so spot on. 2.5 second exposure. Again, I generally say anything between about 1 second and 10 seconds for Northern Lights images. Now, f2.8 is what Richard's shot at. And I can see the reasoning behind that. There's no foreground in here, so shallow depth of field will work. The only thing to watch with that is most lenses aren't quite at their sharpest when they are wide open. So just be aware of that. You might want to, I would typically try and get a little closer to f8 with it if I could. And you might have been able to with that. There appears to have been enough light around, maybe a slightly longer exposure, even just going up a little bit more might help give you a slightly sharper image on here. Because it's not bad, but it's not as sharp as some of your other images. Now, I don't know whether that's purely to do with this lens or what with it. The other thing to say, and you will know this, Richard, but people watching this may not, is what we've got on the screen is a little closer to how the northern lights actually appear to the naked eye. Maybe not even quite that vibrant, believe it or not. So all these really vibrant images you see of the northern lights, they're all fake. They're all fake. We all do it. And it's a particular technique, and that's why I wanted to show the unprocessed image on here, just so that you can see what the starting point is for images of the northern lights. So let's move on to the processed image. And can you see the difference there? What Richard has done, he's used DxO optics on it, and he's really brought out the colours on the image, and he's sharpened it in there as well. So that slightly fuzziness has been partially eliminated through the use of DxO. The only thing I would say, Richard, you're fine at screen resolution, but I don't know whether you can see this at 100% on here, and you'll see it if you go back to your actual file. There's just the starting of a halo appearing, particularly around here and on the tops of some of the trees, and that's an over-sharpening artifact. So just be a little bit careful with it. You're fine at that resolution, but if you punch in, then yeah, you get to see that just beginning there. It's you've brought the colours out nicely, the reflection's lovely, and it's brought out the hues and the colours in the foreground as well. And yeah, I think it's slightly soft. That might be because we're trying to get perfectly sharp at that distance and at this distance. So again, that smaller aperture might have done you some more favours on there. Now, looking at the other one, again, let's have a look at that. That's the raw file. You can see it's very dark, and this is also true of creating images of the northern lights. Often we do end up with images that look like that. Now, looking at the shooting data on here, this is 1 second. Now, I don't know too much about photographing this particular phenomena. Now, it does look as though there is some blurring going on here. Now, I don't know whether this is a fast-moving phenomena with the northern lights, because I've never seen it. So it's the aurora corona, which has nothing to do with COVID-19. And it looks like there is a motion blur with it. Now, I don't know whether that's genuine or whether that's just an effect of the of how that actually appears. The clouds don't appear to have it, so it's not a camera caused one. It's either genuine. If it is genuine, I can understand why you've gone down to a 1 second exposure, but that means it's a little bit dark. Could you have pushed the ISO up a bit more? Don't know. You're starting to get the noise in there at 10,000 ISO. So it might be that you've done the right thing. Now, let's look at the processed version. There we go. And there's noise reduction gone in, and it appears to have found some stars. Now, here's the thing. Were those stars in the original? Yes, they were. They were there. I was beginning to wonder about those because some of them appeared to be through the clouds. Again, what Richard's done is he's brought out the colours in this to give this really dramatic effect, and it's a really lovely image when it's been processed. We've got this sort of swirl effect, which is the aurora corona effect on there. We've got the clouds acting as a framing device. The whole thing just works. But again, oops. If you look here, you can see how it was underexposed, and that, go this the right way, you can see how the histogram has been stretched out for it. Now, the other image I have got on here for feedback from email is this one. And let's go Now, this is model Amber Bell. This was shot in my studio on Monday by Bernard, and it was part of a one-to-one training session. Now, with this Bernard, I've got a couple of observations. Now, I know during your sessions at studio we've had some issues with your camera and exposure, and a couple of times you said on the back of the camera it appears to be overexposed. Well, this is slightly underexposed. Again, if we look at the histogram, we've got a lot of spare space at the top there, and if I just go into the develop module, I can show you the effect of, that's more like the correct exposure. Now, it does bring these bright areas up on the skin, but just a little bring down of the highlights will just solve that. So before and after, it just brings that up a little bit. It also helps bring the detail in the hat. Again, I would just bring the shadows up a touch to bring that detail in on the hat with the image. Now, it looks like you've done some vertical corrections here, which is good. I'm always encouraging corrected verticals. But with the crop, you've managed to get just a little bit of the spare space on there. So it just needs this just a tiny adjustment to the crop like that, just to deal with those little light areas on there. Now, one thing just to say, Bernard, about an image like this, and I've noticed a couple of your images do seem to be a fraction on the dark side, and that is about getting your monitor calibrated. Now, I'm not going to go into it on here, but if you have a look on my website and do a search for, I think the phrase is, why are my prints dark, or something along those lines, I've got a blog all about how to calibrate your monitor without a calibration device. It's not perfect doing it that way. I think I've covered it in one of the live streams in the past as well, and it's about sending a test print to the lab and using that to calibrate your monitor. I suspect your monitor's set too bright. Most monitors are these days. Anything that you've bought in, say, the last 5 years probably has its brightness set too high and it needs taking down a little bit. My monitors are calibrated a little bit out of date at the moment. I need to redo them, but that might be why your image is just a tad on the dark side on there. But if in doubt, trust your histogram and use that. So that's the images we've got, which were sent by email. And again, as I say, if you want me to review images, always better to send them that way. You can see how I was able to look at the shooting data. I was able to get more information, particularly with Richard's images, to be able to give that feedback, because they're the larger files with it. So, moving along, just to say, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been buying me a cuppa over the months to help keep the live streams and the YouTube channel going. If you've done that, big thanks from me. I've not put any names on the mug tonight because I wanted to just thank everyone. I am working on a way to say thank you within the normal pre-recorded videos as well. Right, looking at the chat, I can see a couple of things extra on there. Peter Ashcroft, hello. Richard said that the photos were taken on a moving ship, which is interesting. You managed to get the clouds still, but that aurora appears to be moving, and that's a weird one. One tip for you on a moving ship, and this may seem I can't think of the right words, goes against the grain, but still use a tripod. And try to get a little bit of the ship in shot, because you get a lovely optical illusion of the tripod's moving with the ship. So if you get the prow of the ship in, for example, that will move. That doesn't move relative to your tripod. So that becomes perfectly static. Even though the aurora moves and the clouds move and then the horizon moves, then it gives the feeling that everything is static. Whereas because there's a slight blurring anyway with the rest. So just that little idea, that little trick for you with photographing the Northern Lights. Oh, and hello, Bernard, as well. I don't know whether you've just joined us, Bernard, or whether you were in earlier, but I've just gone through your image. If you have missed it, at the end, just wind back and watch that bit over on the show. Right, that'll teach you for being late. Hey, right, okay. So moving on. Yeah, I was just saying thank you for all the Buy Me a Cuppers on there. I am working on a way to get thank yous to individuals in the main videos. So cheers, folks. And thank you for everyone who has subscribed, liked and shared the video. Great to see we've got 12 of you watching live tonight. I didn't know whether I was going to get an audience tonight at all, so thank you so much for that. And just hit that like button, please. That sends a message to YouTube, and YouTube pushes this out to other people so I can help even more photographers with their photography. And if you're not a member, if you're viewing this and you're not a member of my Facebook group, the link's down below. Please do join. That's where I get some of the images to talk about. And please sign up for my newsletter, also down below. Right. Just to reiterate, if you've got any questions for the live Q&A, please put them in the live chat. I've got one that came in before, which I'm going to deal with now. This is a really, really interesting question, and the answer to it is not what you will be expecting. I'll challenge any one of you to say, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Right, Richard sent in this image via the Facebook group, and he commented about these purple patches on the shoulders of the performer, on her forehead, and also on her nose, and says, can anyone explain these curious lighting effects on the subject's skin? Not a good picture, it is soft, but shows the strange coloration on the shoulders, forehead, and nose. Is there any way to deal with this? Thanks. Well, Richard, yes, there is. Now, I'm going to head back over into Lightroom and talk you through this, explain what's going on, and show you how I fix it. So, let's get the images right. So here's the image that Richard supplied, and I asked him for the raw file because I need the raw file to be able to do this. And I suspect this trick will not work with JPEGs. So first part of solving the problem is shoot raw. And you'll see why in a moment. So we've got these purple areas. Now, I can tell you that and I haven't even asked Richard this, but when he was watching the show and photographing it, there would be a little bit of a purple glow there, but it would not be appearing like that in real life. So that means that purple effect, which is also on the arm as well, has been created either by the camera or by the post-processing or by both. Now, where's it come from? Well, where it's actually come from is the stage lighting. We can see here in the background they are using magenta purple lighting on there. on there, and some of that is spilling onto the subject. I suspect there is a light above which matches this one. One of the ways you light in theatre is lights tend to go in pairs from two different directions, a bit like sandwich lighting in the studio. And so I'm guessing there is a light probably behind, but coming down, that's also got the purple gel on it, which would explain why it's over the shoulders, a little bit on the forehead and on the nose. So it's above, coming down onto her. So that's where it's actually coming from. It is actually there, but it's not that visible in real life. The problem is the camera is processing it in a particular way. Now, how do we deal with it? So I go into the develop module, and it's very, very simple to deal with. It's a profile issue. And you can see here, we've got Adobe profile. If I go full screen, you can see this a little bit better. We've got Adobe Color as the profile by default. And of course, we've got a whole load of profiles we could use. And we could have gone with Adobe Standard, which is not always the best. We could go Adobe Vivid, Landscape. Why you'd want to go Landscape on a theatre one, I don't know. Or Monochrome. Monochrome. Now, here's the first clue. When I go to monochrome, that effect disappears. And you can see on the arm where it was quite bad, it's gone altogether. Over the shoulder, there's very, very slight darkening, a little bit still on the nose, but that tells me that we could or should be able to do something about this. So looking down at the other profiles, let's look at camera matching. And if I went with camera matching standard, can you see here that that profile, it's considerably less. It's still there. This is probably quite close to how you would have seen the lighting on stage, and you possibly wouldn't have noticed that purple glow. Faithful tends to be a little bit more subdued, and it's a bit more obvious on there. Neutral, portrait. Well, standard on this occasion appears to be the one. So if I go with standard and close, hey presto, it's gone. So what's going on here? What's going on here is these profiles are effectively lookup tables, LUTs. And what they do is it looks through the raw data, looks at the colours and translates one colour to another. And certain colours it will boost. And it just happens that under certain theatrical lighting conditions, you end up hitting on particular colours which will get boosted by particular profiles. Now, what is really interesting here is for me to solve it on this, I had to go from Adobe Color to camera matching, standard. So I had to go that way with it, and that gives me a much better match on this image, and it works better. Though the colours in this image are more accurate with that particular profile. Is that true for every image? No. This is why I've loaded up some of my images. So I've got one here where I was seeing the problem. And if I go with the camera matching ones, can you see here they are all purple? If I go standard, this is horrible. It's translated bits to white and purple and all sorts. And do you know what colour the lighting was? The lighting was actually blue on this. So in this case, the camera matching ones get it wrong, but the Adobe ones, if I go to Adobe Neutral, I get a much better effect on it. Or even Adobe Standard, a much better effect. And that's closer to what the audience would have seen in that performance. And Neutral's possibly the best one for it. So the rule here is with a theatrical image, most of the time you can stick with your Adobe Standard profile or whatever your normal color profile is. But occasionally, when you've got some dramatic lighting, you will hit a particular color where that profile doesn't handle it well. And the solution is then to move over to a different profile. Now, do you do the whole play with that profile? Well, it's up to you. What I tend to do when I have this problem is for that particular lighting condition on stage. If it's a whole scene with that lighting, I will use that profile for that whole scene. If it's just a spot lighting effect, I will just do the effect on those particular images and stick with the rest as my standard profile. Now, I said this was a 2-click solution, and my 2 clicks for most of this were profile, browse. Well, I suppose that's one. I thought of that as 1 click. It's actually 2. And then just to scan through, work out which one of these works best for what we were photographing, and that's the 2nd click. Yeah, okay, you've got another one to come out. 4 clicks maximum gets us a solution on it. Now, does this work in every situation when you've got this particular type of lighting? Well, no, it doesn't. So this particular one, where I got some very dramatic blue lighting coming in, and it looks horrible on there, if I go into my profiles and browse them, I can find that if I go to the camera matching, it goes horrible and purple. It's really, really not good. So I'm in the Adobe RAW ones, which are closer to what we had, but not perfect by any means with those. And sometimes you can go through and find something that will work. And so modern, it gives a very subdued effect, but it's really, really tricky to find something that works with that. But all is not lost. I'm going to show you on another image. Now that's horrible, absolutely horrible. It's not a good shot because I've clipped the person there, but it really shows the problem with the lighting on this. All the Adobe ones, every single one gives the horrible pink color, and even the camera matching ones, even Faithful's not brilliant. You've got this horrible pink cast. Yes, there was a pink lighting there. It didn't look anything like that. And some of these, you've lost the detail in it, and it really doesn't look good. Neutral's okay, but it's not brilliant. So what do we do with something like this? Well, what we do is we find the one that gets us closest, which is probably going to be camera matching neutral. So I select that, I close, I then come down to calibration. And with calibration, we can correct for this anyhow. So looking at this, so I was trying to remember how we did it earlier. You see, I can bring up the red primary and bring the saturation down on it. And you see, I'm starting to get skin tones in there. And the blue, which way do I need to go? I need to just go down. Saturation down just a little bit. It's just a matter of playing around with these to get something that's going to be sort of more reminiscent of the lighting which was there in the actual show. And I would think it was something like that. Now, can I do a before and after? I don't know whether before and after works with calibration. Yeah, that was, yeah, it doesn't change the profile, I don't think. Okay, the way to do it is a reset. That was what I came in with. And that is how I've cured it, using a combination of changing the profile and then adjusting the calibration processing to account for how it deals and how it maps with that light. Now, you could take it further and probably do some proper color grading on there as well. So back with this one, I'm going to go back to my Adobe Color on there. And this time, see if I can do this on color grading. What we need to do with it is those are highlights. So if I bring, I don't know that I'm going to do this on color grading itself. It's a little bit too high on that. So reset that. But going down to calibration, watch this. If I bring that down and bring the saturation down, that's starting to keep the effect that we had on stage. I'm just trying to match so that the colours don't look too wild and wacky on it. Still a bit bright, but now, because I've got that, I can bring my highlights down just a little bit, maybe the whites. And that doesn't look quite as horrible and blown out. So, before and after. It just corrects it enough to make it look more like the theatrical effect. So, long answer is play around with your profile and your calibration to solve the problem. But the cause is basically the profiles and how colours are mapped from the raw file. So that's the explanation, Richard. I hope that has helped a little bit on there. Right, okay, so we've got some things in chat which I can't quite see on here. I'm going to have to do this a slightly different way. Go back to chat. Right, okay. We've got it's doing silly things with the chat. My view on my screen doesn't match what's on the broadcast on it. So Bob says in Affinity Photo, understands tone mapping persona for HDR, but the tone map persona can be selected on a single image. Is there any benefit from tone mapping single images? Ooh, right, okay, I'll deal with that one in a moment. And Richard says, you're the expert. Thanks for solving. Superstar. Brilliant, Richard, thank you. Okay, so I'll come back to that question in a moment. I'm just... Incidentally, while I was just adjusting the microphone, I'm working with a new microphone here in the studio. I had some mic problems the other week where, unbeknownst to me, the lavalier mic ran out of battery on me during the thing. It didn't stop working, it just got a lot of buzz in it. One of the videos I put out, I had to put an apology on in the middle of it. So for various other reasons, I was thinking theatrical stuff, I got the headset mic. And one of the advantages of a headset mic is it's much closer to the mouth, which means hopefully it doesn't sound quite so echoey in the room, and hopefully you should get a richer sound. So hopefully it's okay. What I have noticed is I might be clipping occasionally. So any feedback on the microphone, do let me know. Right, okay, questions. Tone mapping and affinity. Right. All right, Bob. You are absolutely right. The tone mapping persona is designed for HDR images in Affinity. And what it's doing is it's where you would compress the range of brightnesses into something which you can work with. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I haven't tried doing it on a single image. I think I might have done once, and I was trying to do, quote, tone mapping as per video tone mapping, as per tone mapping in Lightroom, and I wasn't getting anywhere with it. Because it was just changing it. So without doing more experimentation, I don't think there's much advantage in doing that in Affinity. But I'll have another look at it and I'll let you know. I'll post a comment on this video once I've looked at it to see what can be done. Or can I get Affinity up on here? I don't know whether I can do this. Let me just try. How am I doing for time? I'm running out of time. Right. File. Open. What am I going to open? I know. Ooh, generic. Some of my images that I have. Oh, I want something with lots of tones that I can use for it. Right, Blackpool. Let's go with that. So right, the tone map persona. Now, the clue on it is the symbol there, because it's all about compressing down. So if I go into here, it's really, they call it tone mapping. I would call it some more tonal compression. So we've got these sort of tones here that you can do things with. Now, you might like to experiment with some of these, and particularly the James Ritson one, Urban Bright, and some of these might be of interest if you've got the right image. So for this, sort of the more saturated ones, I think work better. So you might use it for that, but can you see with it, it's generated a little. Oh, hang on. You can't see any of this, can you? Because I've got the wrong display. Oh, yeah. Right, okay. Sorry about that, folks. Let me begin that again. I've opened this image and I've gone into the tone map persona. My apologies for that, folks. And we've got a number of possible options here. But generally, they are more about mapping tones and mapping ranges of brightnesses rather than colours. So I would think if you were going to go in here, the only ones I'd be coming in to use some of these sort of presets in it. And you can control various things, but the more I play with it, you get more of this solarization, this breakup of the image on there, and all these are really tools you've got available anyway. So personally, I can't see a great advantage in using it for anything other than what it's intended on, other than perhaps as a quick way of getting some of these moody presets which are available. That's about the only things, the James ones. If you've got some urban sort of stuff, some of these might be a quick way of getting a particular look on an image, and that's about it. So my apologies for having the wrong picture on display with that, and let's get rid of that on this. Oh, and I've lost some viewers because of that glitch, sorry. Right, let's go back to chat. Nothing new there. Yeah, my chat's now caught up. It's weird. Sometimes the chat on this window doesn't match the chat on that window. Anyway, moving on. I don't know if any other questions come in on the live chat. So let's do feedback and the images I've pulled in from Lightroom. Now, we are running out of time, folks, so I want to keep this under the hour. But I want to just give some feedback, very quick points on these images. And I'm going to, with the ones from Facebook, I am going to keep the feedback short from now on, because I really do want to encourage people to send me the images through the email address. So back over to Lightroom and go to the Facebook images and just pull these up. Right, from John Barton, this murmuration of starlings, nice shot. And actually quite sharp as well, relatively sharp anyway, with it. I'm not sure about the framing devices on here. I don't like just this edge sticking out. I would probably go in just a fraction on there. Yeah, something like that, I think. Or even without that little indent, I'd probably go with something like that on it. I'd possibly go further out. They seem to be flying that way, so pan with it and get a bit more on this side of the image. Moving on. Ruskin, as ever, underexposed for the image. And as ever, please send me your files so I can give you a bit more help on it. With that, so just a little bit up and a little bit of vibrance. I think it needs something like that. It's not badly underexposed, but it just does need, it's about a stop, I would say, and then the highlights just coming down a fraction to something like that. Also, I noticed your watermarks on there twice, and that just doesn't look good. Nice one from John. It's a great image at screen resolution, but when you zoom in on it, it's as soft as hell, I'm afraid. And that's because it's from your 360-degree camera. And exactly as I said last week, try and get into the habit of carrying your better cameras with you. You're a good photographer. At the moment, what's letting you down is you're using the wrong camera for creating the images. 360-degree camera has its place. This isn't it. The other starling murmuration, this one's better, but as ever, I'm not convinced that horizon's straight. Yep, it's another tilt to it. I would also crop there rather than have half a sign on that. So with that, that's pretty good. And not too bad. A little bit of posterization up at the top there. Don't know whether that's Facebook that's caused it, but nice shot. Love the colours on it. Love the silhouette effect of the birds. Good shot, and a better framing device than the other one, to be perfectly honest with you. One from Richard. Now, this I looked at on my screen at home, which has a wider gamut than this screen. On this screen, those blacks look plugged up. They're not, as we can see there. The clipping is just on those edges. All the details there. I would be tempted just to put a little bit more in on the shadows with it, but there's enough separation there. It's nice and subtle separation light coming across the face, this rim lighting coming across. Big fan of rim lighting, as you all know, works really well. And that background, which in my opinion is tiny, I've seen it in real life, looks huge on there. So well done, Rick, for getting that one working. And I love the lighting for that. John, this is horribly posterized. It's been processed way too much. John Kiss, a couple of late submissions from today. He's I think this is slightly overexposed. I would bring the exposure down just slightly, not by much, about half a stop. Love the long exposure. The flowing water works really nice. Where the bridge is, they've got this lead in. Things aren't dead center, so the whole thing works nicely. Really nice image, John. And again with this one, nice flow effect of the water coming through and shooting through, acting as a nice framing device with it. Just be a little bit careful. Those clouds look overexposed. Now, they're not on this JPEG. I suspect they were, and you've done a recovery on them, but you've not been fully able to recover the brightnesses. And the solution with something like this is, if you're on tripod, take two exposures, one for the highlights, one for the shadows, and then HDR it. You can do it with just two exposures to do it, or you put them in layers and then Photoshop just to paint through the layers that need the darker exposure for the clouds, just to bring those through. You could do that. So I would try things like that. And then that's it for the 8 images I have on there. So head back over to the chat. And nothing new in the live chat by the looks of things, unless it's come in on here. Other than Bernard's comment saying that he has caught up with my comments on his image. So good for you, Bernard. And thank you for letting me comment about the image. We do need to sort out those exposures with your shots. So with that, folks, I just want to say, if you're watching this on replay, folks, do put any comments in the comments field. I will respond to them all. So thank you for watching. Next Sunday, if all goes to plan, will be another pre-recorded show. But I'm going to do a pre-recorded show all about painting with light. So if you've got any images which are to do with painting with light, do post them in the live in the Facebook group, because I'd love to see your work on those, and maybe I'll do a second video which is some feedback on them, 2 separate videos for next week, if I've got some to talk about. So thanks for watching as ever, folks. I've kept it down to 50 minutes, so that's all good. So thank you, and as ever, folks, keep making great photos, and I will see you in the next video. Where's the out titles button? Oh, it's so long since I've done this. Outro. Bye.